Hello students, the first topic that I am going to discuss in the series of basic mathematics for high school physics is trigonometry. I am going to call this topic trigonometry for beginners. In this topic, we are going to start trigonometry from zero. So the basic definition of trigonometry: to angle, two different ratios, trigonometric ratios. So we'll start from there. So first of all, we need to understand what is trigonometry. Trigonometry is basically the study of relationship between two things. Relationship between sides, ratio of sides in a right angled triangle, ratio of sides in a right angled triangle, and angle between the sides. In a right angled triangle, ratios of sides change when angles between the sides change. Let's look at a right angled triangle here. So let's take this right angled triangle. Look at this right angled triangle. One angle is of course fixed, that is why we call it right angled triangle. This angle is 90 degrees. Let me call this angle between these two sides with the name theta. I would call this angle as alpha. You know, sum of the angles in a triangle should be equal to 180 degrees. So if sum of the angles is equal to 180 degrees, alpha is equal to 90 degrees minus theta. One angle is here is 90 degrees. So sum of the other two angles should be equal to 90 degrees. So if this angle here is theta, the other angle alpha should be equal to 90 degrees minus theta. Now, if you look at the angle theta, this side, which is adjacent to this angle theta, is called adjacent side of angle theta. Adjacent side. The side opposite to angle theta is simply called opposite side. And the longest side, the third side, is called hypotenuse. I would use the symbol X for a horizontal side or the side adjacent to angle theta. I'm going to call it from now onwards with the name X. And I'm going to call this vertical side, which is the opposite side of angle theta, with the name Y. And I use the symbol R for hypotenuse from here onwards. Now, in trigonometry, what we are going to do is, we are going to study the relationship between ratios of sides and angle between the sides. When theta changes, the ratios of sides changes. Ratios of sides means what? Here, opposite side by hypotenuse, y by r, is one ratio, or it's reciprocal. We'll talk about reciprocals later. Next, the ratio of adjacent side to hypotenuse. The ratio of adjacent side to hypotenuse, that is x by r, x divided by r. And the third ratio is ratio of opposite side to adjacent side, which is y by x. These are the ratios of the sides that we are going to discuss. So what happens is, when angle between these two sides changes, when theta changes, these ratios also changes. So ratios of the sides also changes when angle between the sides changes. So y by r is changing, x by r is changing, and y by x is also changing as theta is changing. Since these ratios depend on angle theta, we can write these ratios, that is ratio of sides is a function of theta. Y by r is a function of theta. X by r is a function of theta. Y by x is also a function of theta. It means function of simply means depends on. In the language of maths, function of means depends on. The ratio y by r depends on theta. The ratio x by r depends on theta. The ratio y by x also depends on theta. Y by r, y divided by r means what? Opposite side divided by hypotenuse is a function of theta. Y by r, y divided by r is a function of theta. X divided by r, that is the ratio of adjacent side to hypotenuse, is also a function of theta. And of course, y by x, y divided by x, the ratio of opposite side to adjacent side is also changing when theta is changing. So these are the three ratios that we are going to study. Y divided by r is changing as theta is changing. So in English we say y by r depends on theta. So this is in the language of mathematics. So here this equation simply means we are saying in the language of mathematics that this ratio depends on theta. So here we are going to study how these ratios are changing in trigonometry. We are going to study how these ratios are changing as theta is changing, as angle between the sides is changing. That's what we are going to study in trigonometry. Now, before we study these ratios, how these ratios are going to change as theta is changing, first we need to understand what theta is, what an angle is, what is the definition of an angle between the lines. That's what we are going to study now. So let's talk about angle here. Let's take two lines. Let's see how to find angle between the lines. Let us say these two lines are intersecting at point O. Let me call the intersection of these two lines is at point O. Now, angle between these two lines is, let's say, theta. How do we find this angle between two lines? Well, here, by taking point O as the center, you can draw a circular arc of any radius to find angle theta. What we are going to do is, we are going to take point O as the center and draw a circular arc. Okay, so you can tie a string to the pen and keep one end of the string fixed here, the other end to the string, and you can draw a circular arc. That way also you can draw a circular arc, but here we have compass, let's use it. Let's draw a circular arc that intersects these two lines at any 2 points. Now I have drawn a circular arc. You can draw a circular arc of any radius. Let me say these 2 points are points A and B. This is point A and the arc is intersecting the other line, say at point B. Now let's say length of the circular arc that we have drawn between A and B is equal to L. Let's say this is equal to L. You know, OA is the radius, OB is also the radius. So let me call this with the name R. This is R, radius of the circular arc. Now, by definition, angle theta between the two lines is equal to length of circular arc divided by radius of the arc. So here theta is equal to length of circular arc divided by radius of circular arc. This is called angle between the two lines. You can draw an arc of any radius. Okay, if you increase the radius of the arc, length also increases such that the ratio L divided by R remains constant. You can draw a circular arc here, or you can draw a circular arc here, extending these two lines. But L is increasing, R is also increasing, the ratio remains constant. That ratio is called angle between the two lines. Okay, so I can write theta is equal to L by R. Or I can also write L is equal to R theta. So you can find out theta. You can take a scale, measure the length OA, which is radius of the arc. Take a string or thread. So place the string on AB from A to B and measure the length of the thread using scale. You don't need a protractor to measure this angle. So when you find length L and radius R, substitute those length L and radius R in this ratio, you will get the value of theta. But you will get value of theta in radians. Here, angle theta is in radians. This is angle theta. Now, how do we convert it into degrees? You know, pi radians is equal to 180 degrees. Or 2 pi radians is equal to 360 degrees. If you take a semicircle is an arc. Semicircle is an arc making an angle 180 degrees at the center. So length of semicircle there is 180 degrees into r. So you have to write this in radians. Length of semicircle is pi r. Similarly, circumference of the full circle. Take a full circle. So length of the full circle is 2 pi r. L is equal to theta into r. 2 pi into r. So length of the full circle or circumference is equal to r into theta. What is theta angle made at the center of the circle? For a full circle, this angle is 360 degrees. 2 pi radians or 360 degrees. Semicircle makes 180 degrees or pi radians at center. So since you know how to find circumference of a circle, you can treat the full circle as an arc of length 2 pi r, where 2 pi is angle made by the arc at the center. So since pi radians is equal to 180 degrees, or 2 pi radians is equal to 360 degrees, you can write 1 radian is equal to 180 degrees by pi. Or you can write 1 degree is equal to pi by 180 radians. So this is how you can convert from radians to degrees or from degrees to radians. Since pi radian, let's write few angles. Since pi radians is equal to 180 degrees, you know, pi by 2 radians is equal to 90 degrees. Pi by 4 radians is equal to 45 degrees. 180 degrees by 4. Pi by 4 radians is 180 degrees by 4, 45 degrees. Similarly, pi by 3 radians 60 degrees. Pi by 6 radians. So like this, you can write all angles is equal to 15 degrees. 2 pi by 3 radians. In place of pi, write 180 degrees, you will get 2 pi by 3 is equal to 120 degrees. That is 2 by 3 into 180, which is 120 degrees. So like this, you can convert from radians to degrees or from degrees to radians. Okay, so this is what angle is.